A good sports person is someone whose mind and body are balanced. Victory doesn't always go to the stronger or the faster person. It ultimately goes to the stronger mind, the tougher spirit. I've been meditating for a long time, and I do advise all my students to meditate as well. But the problem with meditation is that you don't know when you're sitting, what are you doing? Is the mind wandering, or are you really focusing, relaxed, or meditating? This is what led us to develop Dhyana. Dhyana uses infrared sensors to check what they call heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is used by doctors and scientists in their hospitals and labs. We use the same technology to check whether you're breathing right, you're relaxing, and you're focusing patterns. These three are the main components of meditation. We've used the technology used in big machines and shrunk it to the size of a ring. That's the Dhyana ring. We've made a lighter version of the Dhyana ring for you. We use the camera sensor of your own smartphone to ensure that we get the HRV values. It's a great way to get started at no cost. Today, I'm announcing the launch of my personal meditations, Dhyana for Sport. These guided and monitored meditations have been designed with years of my experience in training athletes, so that people across the world have the same access to the mental training which I do with my students. I'm sure you'll love them. I am Gopichand. I have trained Olympic athletes. Let me train you. Download the Dhyana app and let's get started.
Hello and welcome to this very special program on sports. Today, this is our special series celebrating legends, celebrating their contribution to Indian sport. And today we've got my own hero and motivation and inspiration, Pullela Gopichand. I don't call many people in India, in Indian sport, my heroes. This man is one who just stands apart. With me, my dear colleague and friend, Ridhima Pathak, who will be hosting this with me. And she's the face of sports today, all of you know. We've also got Sudhir, my teacher, someone I've got the greatest of respect for the last 10 years, has been leading the Mystic Yoga studio in Calcutta. My wife and I, we are both his students. I want to ask Sudhir, he's used the app, he's seen the video, how that will benefit general students for fitness, for having a better life. That's why we've got our domain experts also. Ridhima, one thing before you take over and ask Gopi the first question. There are people there are coaches, there are athletes, and there are legends. Gopi is in the third category by a million miles, and I'll tell you why. If you just go through his own regime, during the Rio Olympics, and I'm saying it because Tokyo is exactly 7 months away, he comes home, tells his wife, and says to her that in this house, everything is about my son and daughter. But for the next 7 months, this is 2016, it is about me. And she's like, what? And he says, it is about me because if I get unwell for even one day, Sindhu misses training. And he loses weight. He sort of did about 8 or 10 kilos. And every single day from 4 a.m. to it continues, he was with Sindhu. Ask Lakshmi, what in terms of recreation did she do? And she will say they would go and watch a film every now and then, but that too has stopped because Gopi needs to go to bed at 8 p.m. This is the kind of sacrifice this family has undertaken to serve Indian sport in the manner for the last 15 years. So when he launches something, when he tells us that this is good for us, trust me, it is good for us. It's as simple as that. He tells me the color of the sky is brown. I will say the color of the sky is brown. I've got that much faith in the man.
It's first of all a pleasure to be in the same frame with all of you. And Gopi sir, I've got this opportunity. So the first question I want to ask you is to be an Olympian, apart from talent and hard work, what is that one thing that is required to reach in the top?
Well, first of all, Boria, thank you for the kind words. And Ridhima, I think for all of us who take up sport and want to play the highest level, I think sport comes with a huge number of challenges, and it can be only overcome if you really truly love what you do. If you have to get up and be disciplined and hardworking forever in your life, it's going to be very difficult. It can only come out if you actually love the sport, you will be involved with the sport, you enjoy the sport. And these words of hard work, discipline, and sacrifice seem very dry words, whereas love, liking, involvement, and passion, these are the words which make it interesting. So for me, one of the fundamental things about becoming a sports person is to love what you do, and that is the primary aspect. And as far as reaching the highest level is concerned, there are a lot of people who have the talent. Out of 10 kids, maybe three, four of them at least have the talent. But at the world level, only 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000, 10,000 make it. And that quality differentiator is your mental stability, your pushing, your killer instinct, your perseverance, your grit. Those are the things which differentiate people at the highest level. So if you're looking at Olympians, they come out, they are the people who come out of adversity through their mental strength.
And how does one develop that?
Well, many people are lucky to be born with it. But if you're not born with that positivity, then you can train them. And that's very important. For me, I was not one of those kids who had great success early in life. So there were a lot of doubts in me. And in my own personal journey, I've had an anterior cruciate ligament when I was 20 years old, a left knee surgery in 94, 96, and 98. Back then, when physiotherapy and orthopedics wasn't the same as now, when sports science wasn't the same as now, I took me a lot to get back, and I was really helped by Indian yoga, breathing exercises, relaxation, visualization, and all of these things. And that truly has been a journey for me. And over time, I realized that these things can be developed.
We've got Sudhir here, who's joined us, who runs the Mystic Yoga in Calcutta. Importance of yoga in for athletes today?
Ridhima and Buria, thank you for having me here. And Gopi sir, it's an honor to be with you on the show. Coming to Ridhima's question, see how meditation can help people is to develop the resilience that Gopi sir has been talking about in various ways, and the mental tenacity that he has been talking about in many ways. And the best thing is that when we come up with an app like Dhyana app, people can also measure that if they are actually, what their meditation that they are practicing is actually working or not. Because ultimately I feel seeing is believing. Unless people see that there is a tangible return on investment on the time they are spending in meditation, they may or may not want to continue it for a very long time. And if they see that over a period of time, over a period of few weeks and period of few months, they are getting some measurable return on investment, because time is a very big investment for young people, for young sportsmen, for young students also. So they are likely to persist in all the endeavor that they have undertaken.
Right.
And I'd like to mention here one very small point that Gopi sir was mentioning in one of his talks, that when he was training, since you're asking about young people, Ridhima, that when he would train himself, he would reach 10 minutes before everybody else and leave 10 minutes after everybody else, so that 20 minutes would become his cutting edge. So I think young people should not always try to do something very, very big. Even if they are spending 10 minutes in their mental training and 10 minutes at the end of their physical training, they're spending in mental training. So that can also count very much. It's not that one has to do hours of meditation, but 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there can make a very big difference.
What is this whole agenda of a 5 a.m. club?
See, the morning's hours are the best. So if you have utilized 1 or 2 hours in the morning before the world gets going, so you actually have practically done 4 to 5 hours of very concentrated, very focused work. And personally, I actually belong to 4 a.m. club. So the hours are the best hours to get started with the day, because what you achieve in next 6 hours from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. you have actually achieved in between 4 and 6:30 already. So
Super.
before the
So,
work crashes in, you are through.
so Ridhima, basically there are three people in the Gopi 4 a.m. club here. So you will also join in very soon. I think Gopi is
I
back. Gopi,
yes.
Ridhima asked you about what is it about the 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. club. She gave you 1 hour grace. So we'll take that 1 hour back.
Honestly, for me, when I started coaching, I actually all we were growing up. We thought that if we make it big, we would get up at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., read a newspaper, then go to work at 11 and 12, and then come back and play golf in the evening. That's what we thought if we make it big, because we really pushed ourselves in life. But when I started coaching and I had players starting to do well, days started getting shorter and longer and longer, and the sleeping times got shorter and shorter. But truly, there was one point in my life where I looked around to see how many people are there who've not been successful, who got up in the morning and worked. And truly, I haven't found anybody who gets up in the morning and works actually being unsuccessful in life. And there was a certain point where that I may not have the ability, I don't know if I have the ability, but if I just get up and start working in the morning, I'll be successful. And that thought came up. And from that day, I just decided to get up and work. And truly, I looked around for people who were unsuccessful after getting up and working in the morning. And I didn't find anybody, honestly.
I'm quite taken aback by this. I mean, I didn't know this. Again, I mean, Gopi will give you something every single day. Gopi, before Ridhima again takes over, tell us about the app. Why this? Why now? Is it a pandemic thing also that you're going tech, trying to tell people that you've got to be more, fitter and more conscious and build immunity? Is this the new world and the new normal that all of us have taken to? Give us a sense of the app, and then I'll ask Ridhima. She's downloaded it. Sudhir has downloaded it. I also want general impressions from users. So first you tell us the background and the story, then Ridhima takes over and Sudhir takes over.
For the longest period of time, we all have spoken about it. We all think that mental training is needed. We all know that killer instinct is needed. And that's a problem which we always talk about. But honestly, when we actually sit down to make people start talking and working on fitness of the mind or strength of the mind, we are kind of in a space which is a little doubtful, because we don't know how to measure it. We don't know how, whether they're sitting down, whether they're thinking, dreaming, sleeping. We don't know. So I always would find it difficult, because I would say, come on, you need to work on your mental strength. And mostly you would get a new paper to write down, or a phone conversation where, or a direct conversation, and the person might just be dozing off even though he's sitting in front of you. So this thought came up as, what do we do to ensure that people are sitting down and focusing on things which they need to? And the three basic points: one is breathing, which I think everybody talks about, understands. One is relaxation, and one is affirmations which come in, which are put into the subconscious mind. So these are things which are important. So when this app came out, and this is actually a small ring, this is the ring which they talk about. And when you put the ring on, it measures what they call as heart rate variability. And it actually tells you how mindful you are during your breathing session, whether you're breathing as per the pattern, or you're kind of slipped off and your thoughts are gone somewhere, or whether you're relaxed, or whether your heartbeat is all over the place, or whether during the affirmations you're in a relaxed state or you're agitated, because only in a relaxed state you're taking this. Now, somebody who's done yoga would say this is normal, this is fundamental. But I think for many of the younger people, many of the people whose minds are all over the place, it's great to have a device which actually tells you whether you are mindful or not. And that for me became very important. Now, I would actually, over time, many of my students would have this, that I would make them relax, which is mostly in a yoga nidra. And I would pick up, say, Sri Ravi Shankar or Amritananda Mahima, just some of those Yoga Nidra cassettes, and then they would keep playing because I benefited from Yoga Nidra tremendously. And then from breathing, we would do the Art of Living or the Wim Hof breathing. But for me, actually, to have a device which actually helps you monitor what you're doing is an important aspect of mental training. Along with it, my voice and recordings, because sometimes before a match or before a training session, you want to be reminded of those things, that you need to be pushing yourself, you need to be going for the killer instinct, or you need to kind of finish the rallies or be aggressive. And then after training and after the workout also, it's very important to forgive yourself for the mistakes you've done, be grateful for what you've got, because you're not going to win all the time, and that is very important. So we've done a series of recordings in my voice which actually go through um, the emotions of a player and try to push him and calm him down, so that each day he tries to be the best of what he or she can be.
Sudhir, he did throwback on the app of what it does. What would you like to add? What else does meditation do to a person? And there are a lot of youngsters who actually have problems in believing in the fact that meditation will work for me, because by the look of things, it's all about hard work and physical training and physical strength. How does meditation take you that extra notch?
Ridhima, when young people get exposed to something like meditation, it is likely that they will take it up in a while. What matters most is taking it to them in a very systematic manner. And if they start experimenting with it, they start seeing the results. And why it works a little more on them, because their level of energy and enthusiasm is the highest when they are young, or when they are in the college, and when they are achievement driven. So I think it is a step in very right direction that such an app has come up, and it is reaching out to them. But other than that, also see, when we are going through a year like 2020, when people are crashing and collapsing all the time, and we see so many successful people also taking such drastic steps, even committing suicide. So we are seeing that those who are more resilient, those who have the nerve, those who have the tenacity to deal with it, they are able to cope with the solitary confinement, with the loneliness, with the lack of lifestyle, with the lack of opportunities that they are going through. They are able to cope up with it, and they are making something positive out of it. But those who are unable to cope with it, they are crumbling, regardless of what their profession is. They could be fashion designers, they could be sportsmen. They feel this is it, and they are not able to see any future. So if they have had, like Gopi sir was saying, not everybody is born with mental tenacity, not everybody is born with mental strength. So if they regularly train their mind, so they will be developing mental resilience. So we have a pandemic in 2020, but we don't know what's going to happen in 2025 or 2030 again. So I think people should be prepared for all eventualities, not just for the pandemic, but in our life also. We have our own personal pandemics coming up. All the while, it's never going to be a smooth sailing. So what is stress? People are stressed and people crumble because they are unable to handle it. So if their mind space, their tenacity, their strength is more, they may not crash or crumble so easily. So along with physical training, along with physical fitness, I feel mental fitness is very, very important.
But I have to ask you this: who's that one athlete of all that you've seen whose mental tenacity, the term that I just learned, mental strength has pleasantly surprised you?
Saina Nehwal.
I think Saina is somebody who's definitely up there. I think as an athlete, her desire to win is something which has really been pushed. She's really pushed. Of course, the examples of Federers and Nadals are there in sport. And I believe it's not only those, but when you look at athletes like para athletes, you look at the athletes who come from economic backgrounds which are very poor, but still have the tenacity to push and do the best of what they can. I think it's a great quality which we have. So I think, of course, the big names are what we've seen. But for me, I see kids around who show that tenacity. And my only wish is sports sometimes is unfair. It's not that the most hardworking guys are the most successful, but I just hope that people don't get disheartened by the loss and keep pushing, because the attitude can be very useful in life.
Gopi, can you tell Ridhima the story of Saina, that when she was playing that world number 5 and she asked you, "मैं किसके साथ खेल रहा हूँ?" and give us that story.
For the longest period of time, Indian women were never thought to be strong enough to win matches. And typical example, of course, on the men's side, we had people like Suresh Goyal, Nandu Natekar, Prakash sir, myself, who did win at the international, but none of the women's side who won at the highest level. So when she was growing up, so typically the belief was not there. And then she would go out for tournaments, and then she's calling me up, and she would be there even at the Olympics. And then, भैया ये कोई Chinese Taipei से player है, China से player है. And I would know that she's playing somebody in the top 8 in the world. And then I would say, अरे ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है, ये ऐसी खेलती है. And they would say, हाँ ऐसा क्या? Then I say, yeah, ये कुछ नहीं खेलती है. And then she would call up and say, भैया इसको मार दिया मैंने. And she would be like 5 or 6 in the world. So this is the kind of thing which was, and she was like 15, 16, 17 years old. And yeah, I still feel she was a bit unlucky to not get a medal in 2008 Olympics in Beijing.
You know, Maria Christine Julianti, that match, Ridhima, in 2008 is still etched in my memory. I mean, it would have done what to Indian badminton. Gopi did that with Saina in 2012. I actually was sitting with Kashyap at the top of the stadium in London watching that game. And I didn't know at that point in time that the two of them were going out. So I had no idea why this guy was sort of screaming the way he was for another colleague, but it was great fun. And obviously, Gopi scripted history there. Even Sindhu, at one point in time when she was playing a top flight match, she started crying in the middle of a match, and Gopi had to tell her, Amma khello, khello, Amma khello. That is the kind of stuff, you know, mentally what you need to do. And I asked Gopi one day, what is it that you teach Sindhu? She knows everything badminton. What is your role? What is your role sitting behind? And he said, look, at 17 all, both players are good. Both players are top flight players. My job is to make her win. That's my job. Because I'm seeing the game in a different way than she is seeing. Mentally, I've got to make her believe she can win. And my job is to do that. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful answer. And Gopi, can you tell all of us again? I mean, when Sindhu was maybe losing one after final, 8 or 9 finals, mentally there was an issue. You got that changed in the World Championship. But more importantly, that game, when she was crying and you said, Amma khelo, and how did you change that part of our mental aspect?
For me, this was early. This was like 2013-14 when we were playing the Asian Championships. And we were in China. She was leading against Van Xixian. And then Van Xixian starts to catch up. And she's almost like 19-11 up. And then Van Xixian is there 19-17. And then Sindhu comes back and says, I can't. And she is actually on court crying, tears in her eyes. And then I'm literally, comes so close to me that I had to hold her hand and say, come on, get back and play. And that's how she was. And that's the person she is. She won't shout at all on court. And there were times where I had to literally make a stand in front of the entire academy and say, I won't leave you unless you shout. And then we would just be standing and she would just be crying. And that's how it was. So it's kind of, you need to know when to push and when to back off. But I think champions come out with that mindset where they can have the whole world crumpling, and the kind of sword can come very close to them, knocking them off. But then at that point, they have that quality to get out of and figure a way to actually succeed. And that's a quality which I think distinguishes or differentiates champions. And that's what we've had. Champions come out with this quality of able to turn things around in the nick of time. And I think that's something which is very important, to break the fear element or break the barrier and just move on is something which is important, which they are able to figure out. And I do believe that India and yoga has so much to offer to the world. Because for me, the first time, and I think Sudhir would, all of you would release this, the first time I went and somebody spoke about mental training was I was in Bangalore. They took me into a blue room with all curtains, and then we had this big, loud Russian voice as I come, relax, breathe in, and a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after the first 5 minutes, I realized he was just making us do Yog Nidra. So people have actually taken Indian knowledge, repackaged it, and selling it back to us, which is unfortunately a pity, because I think deep down, I think we have so much to offer from our country.